When you look back on your life, you won't remember the distractions. You won't remember the excuses. You won't remember the moments when you played it safe. What you will remember are the chances you did, or didn't, take. The truth is, we only get so many years, so many moments, so many opportunities to rise into the person we know we're capable of becoming. And the question I want you to ask yourself right now is simple. What if 2026 was that year? What if this was the year you stopped negotiating with your dreams? What if this was the year you finally decided that you owe it to yourself, not to anyone else, not for recognition, not for validation, but for you, to live the life you were meant to live? I want you to stay with me tonight, because over the next few moments, I'm going to challenge you to see 2026 differently. Not as another year on the calendar, but as the turning point, the one you look back on and say, that was the year I stopped waiting. That was the year I started becoming. You owe it to yourself. And if you'll allow me, I'll show you exactly why. When we talk about commitment, so many people think about the promises they make to others, promises to their families, to their jobs, to their friends, even to society at large. And while all of those have meaning, what often gets overlooked is the single most important commitment you could ever make in your lifetime, the one you make to yourself. Because here's the truth, if you don't honor your own goals, your own vision, your own well-being, then no amount of commitment to anything or anyone else will ever bring you the fulfillment you're searching for. Too often, we put ourselves at the bottom of the list. We rationalize it by saying we'll start tomorrow, we'll push harder next year, or we'll finally go after what we want once things settle down. But the years pass, and suddenly, what you wanted becomes a faded dream you hardly recognize. That's why 2026 cannot just be another year you let slip by. It must be the year you fully commit, not halfway, not when it's convenient, not just when the energy is high, but fully, to yourself. When I say commit to yourself, I don't mean in a casual way. I mean in the kind of way that leaves no back door open, no exit plan for when things get tough. Because they will get tough. Life has a way of testing every decision we make, especially the ones that matter most. There will always be obstacles, distractions, and reasons to quit. But the moment you decide, truly decide, that you owe it to yourself, something shifts. The excuses lose their power. The setbacks become fuel. The temporary discomfort feels small compared to the vision of who you're becoming. And that decision, that moment of clarity, can change everything about the way you step into this year. We live in a world where it's so easy to give our best energy to everyone else's demands. We rush to meet deadlines, to please expectations, to fit into molds that were never meant for us. Boo. Excuses have a way of sounding reasonable in the moment. They whisper to us that we'll start when we're ready, when the timing feels right, when circumstances finally align. They tell us that waiting makes sense, that being cautious is safer than trying and failing. But what those excuses really do is steal time from us. They disguise themselves as logic, when in truth they are the most subtle, destructive form of self-sabotage we will ever face. If 2026 is going to be the year you rise, it has to be the year you stop giving your power to excuses. It has to be the year you refuse to let your limitations define the boundaries of your future. Think about it. Every person who has achieved something extraordinary was surrounded by reasons not to. They had struggles, doubts, responsibilities, fears. They had critics who told them it wasn't possible. And yet, they chose to act anyway. The difference between the ones who rise and the ones who remain stuck isn't that the successful people had fewer obstacles, it's that they refused to let those obstacles become excuses. They decided to break through instead of backing down. And the same choice lies in front of you right now. You might tell yourself you're too busy, that your plate is already full. But the truth is, being busy is not the same as being fulfilled. You might tell yourself you don't have enough resources, but history is filled with people who built greatness out of nothing but grit, vision, and persistence. You might even tell yourself that you're too late, that your chance has already passed. But let me ask you, too late compared to what? Life is not a race against anyone else. It's a journey of becoming the best version of yourself, and that journey doesn't have an expiration date. The danger of excuses is that they don't always show up as loud resistance. They slip in quietly, disguised as comfort, disguised as rational thought. They convince you that tomorrow will always be there, that opportunities will wait until you feel ready. But the truth is, opportunities are perishable. Time is perishable. And every excuse you make robs you of the chance to grow, to experience, to rise into the life you say you want. That's why this year must be different. This year, you can't afford to keep feeding yourself the same reasons you've given in the past. Because those reasons, those stories, they've already cost you too much. The human mind is powerful, and it will find endless justifications for why you should stay where you are. It will tell you you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not connected enough. It will convince you that you need to wait for the right partner, the right opportunity, the right economy, the right timing. But deep down, you know the right time never comes on its own. The right time is created. It's created by action, by courage, by the willingness to take the first step without seeing the entire path. The moment you stop waiting and start moving, doors appear that you. Motivation is powerful, but it's fleeting. It comes in waves. There are days when you wake up feeling unstoppable, ready to conquer the world, and there are days when even the simplest tasks feel overwhelming. And if you build your entire future on waiting for motivation, you'll find yourself constantly starting and stopping, moving and stalling, never creating the consistency that true success demands. That's why discipline matters more than motivation. Discipline is what carries you through the days when the excitement fades. Discipline is what keeps you aligned with your vision, even when you don't feel like showing up. And if 2026 is truly going to be your year, it cannot be built on bursts of inspiration alone. It must be built on the foundation of relentless discipline and daily action. There's a certain magic in discipline, though it doesn't always feel magical in the moment. It feels like choosing to get up earlier than you'd like, saying no to distractions that look tempting, staying committed when everyone else is giving up. It feels ordinary, even boring at times. But that's the secret. Ordinary actions, done consistently, lead to extraordinary outcomes. And the people who achieve greatness aren't necessarily the ones with the most talent, the best resources, or the loudest confidence. They're the ones who kept showing up, day after day, when no one was watching, when progress felt slow, when results seemed far away. That's the standard you owe yourself this year. Think of every single day as a brick. One day might not seem like much, just as one brick isn't impressive on its own. But when you stack brick after brick, day after day, eventually you build a wall, a foundation, a structure that is unshakable. That's what daily action does for your life. It turns small, consistent habits into unbreakable momentum. And momentum is the force that carries you further than motivation ever could. When you build momentum, you no longer need to talk yourself into action, you simply move because it's who you've become. Discipline also demands honesty with yourself. It requires that you take a hard look at how you're spending your time, where you're investing your energy, and whether those choices align with the future you claim to want. If you say you want change, but your actions reflect comfort, there's a disconnect. If you say you want growth, but you avoid the work that growth requires, you're lying to yourself. Discipline forces you to close that gap. It asks you to live in alignment with your words, to prove your commitment not by what you say, but by what you do repeatedly, day after day. And here's the truth, discipline isn't glamorous. Social media celebrates the highlight reels, the achievements, the breakthroughs. But the real story of success is told in the quiet, uncelebrated hours. It's told in the early mornings when you choose progress over sleep. It's told in the late nights when you choose focus over distraction. It's told in the future is not something that arrives fully formed. It isn't handed to you wrapped neatly with certainty and comfort. The future belongs to those who claim it, who have the courage to step into the unknown and decide that they will shape what comes next rather than waiting to be shaped by it. Too many people live their lives waiting for someone else to open the door, for circumstances to be just right, for fear to finally disappear. But fear never disappears, and the perfect moment never comes. The only thing that ever truly changes your future is the decision to act boldly despite the uncertainty. And if 2026 is going to be your turning point, then you must claim it with courage and vision. Courage doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid. It means you'll stop letting fear dictate the terms of your life. Fear will always whisper to you. It will tell you that you're not ready, that you might fail, that the risk is too great. It will point out every reason why you should stay where it's safe, where it's predictable, where you're comfortable. But comfort zones are dangerous places. They feel secure in the moment, but they silently rob you of growth, potential, and the chance to become more than you are today. Every time you choose comfort over courage, you reinforce the walls that keep you small. But every time you choose courage over fear, you tear those walls down, brick by brick, until you step into a space you never thought you could reach. Vision is equally important. Because courage without direction is just chaos, and vision without courage is just a dream. Vision gives you clarity. It's the ability to see beyond what is right now and imagine what could be. It's the force that pulls you forward, even when the present feels uncertain. When you have a clear vision of who you want to become and what you want to create, every step of courage feels purposeful. You're no longer just taking risks for the sake of taking risks, you're stepping into something bigger, something aligned with your future self. And that alignment gives you strength when the path feels unclear. Think about the opportunities in front of you. How many times have you hesitated because you were waiting for absolute certainty? How many times have you convinced yourself you weren't ready, only to watch someone else take the chance you wanted? The truth is, those opportunities weren't lost because you lacked talent, or potential, or worth. They were lost because fear won in the moment. Fear made you wait. Fear made you doubt. And in waiting, you gave away the chance to grow. That's why courage matters. Because it closes the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Courage shortens the distance between potential and reality. And it's important to understand that claiming your future doesn't mean you won't fail along the way. Failure is inevitable. It is part of the process. But failure is not the opposite of success, it's the foundation of it. Every failure teaches you.